Hey, what's going on, guys? So I am working on a Sass crash course. Sass is a CSS preprocessor or pre-compiler. This was requested by a couple of my patrons, and I wanted to use the Sass Starter Pack that I created, which is a really nice dev workflow for creating Sass projects. But I wanted to first make a video showing you how to actually create this. Okay, so what we're going to do is I have it already on GitHub here. Feel free to clone it, download it, but we're going to recreate it, and I'm going to show you how to use Gulp, how to use the Gulp-Sass plugin, and how to use BrowserSync. Those are the three dependencies that we're going to use in this project, and basically it's going to give us a dev server that's going to compile Sass on the fly. And before we start building it, I'm going to show you how to use it, which is very simple. All we have to do is download it, run npm install, npm start, and it's going to start up our dev server. And it has auto load. It's just a really nice way to create Sass projects. So what I'm going to do here is just download the zip file, and we'll go ahead and open that. And let's see, I'm going to create a folder. I'll just call it test for now. And we're going to bring over the files from the starter package or starter pack. And let's go ahead and open up git bash, or open up whatever terminal or command line that you're using. And all we have to do is simply run npm install. And if we take a look at the files here, let me just open this in Visual Studio Code. And if we look at package.json, the only three dependencies we're using are these dev dependencies. So we have Gulp, which is the JavaScript task runner, Gulp-Sass to compile the Sass, and BrowserSync to actually stream to the browser. Okay, so that npm install is what it's installing. And then if we go and we run npm start, because you can see right here I've created a start script or an npm script called start that's going to call Gulp. That way we don't even have to install Gulp globally to run this. Alright, so we'll go ahead and run that, npm start. It's going to compile everything, and it's going to open up your dev server. Okay, so let's look at the source folder. Now the style.scss file is the Sass file, and you can see we set a variable of background color to dark gray. We set it as the body background, and that's what you're seeing. Let me just make this, let's split this. That's what you're seeing right here. Okay, so when we ran npm start, it took our Sass file and it compiled it into this CSS folder into a regular style CSS, and that's what this is right here. All right, now if we go and we change, for instance, the background color variable like to blue, and we just save, it's going to auto load. Okay, if we change the color here, if we change the color to black and save, you'll see that that's going to auto load as well. Okay, if we clear this out and save, and if we go and we edit the HTML file, like let's change the h1 to hello and save, and you'll see that gets auto updated. So this is going to compile your Sass on the fly and also give you this nice dev server that auto loads really quickly. So this is what we're going to build. So we'll put it together, and then we'll go ahead and we'll just add some markup and some Sass just to, I don't know, build like kind of a simple little project using the starter pack. So that's it. Let's go ahead and get into it. Alright guys, so what we're going to do here is start from absolute scratch. I'm going to create a folder, and whoop, not a shortcut. We're going to create a new folder called Sass Starter Pack. And I'm going to open that up with Visual Studio Code, which is the text editor I'm using. Now you're also going to want to open a command line in this folder, whether you're using a Windows command line or a Linux or Mac terminal. I'm using git bash. If you want that for Windows, you can go to git-scm.com and go ahead and download it. I also have it integrated with Visual Studio Code, so if I go to integrated terminal, you'll see that's what's being used down here. Now I have obviously you guys know we just created the empty folder, Sass Starter Pack. And what we're going to do first is we're going to create a package.json file. So to do this, we're going to run a command npm init. Now you have to have Node.js installed for this to use npm, which is Node Package Manager. If you don't have Node.js, just go to nodejs.org, download it, and install it. All right, so let's run that. And we're just going to go through this. So name, that's fine. Version, that's good. Description, we'll just say boilerplate for Sass projects. Entry point, that's fine. Author, I'm just going to leave it blank. License, I'll just say MIT. Alright, so now if we look at our package.json file, that's what we should have. Now we're going to have to install our dependencies. So we're going to have a couple, I'm just going to clear this out real quick. We're going to have, we're going to have a couple dev dependencies. So we're going to have Gulp, Gulp-Sass, and BrowserSync. So let's say npm install. We're going to add the flag --save-dev, and then Gulp, Gulp-Sass, and then browser-sync. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that. And since we did save dev, it should add those as dev dependencies to our package.json file. Alright, and then while that's going on, let's create our source folder. So let's say new folder, src, and the only folder we're going to need to create in here manually is our Sass folder, which is going to be scss. Okay, and then we're going to have one file in there called style.scss. Alright, and then just to put something in here, I'm going to add a variable called bodybg, right? And we're going to set that to, let's say, blue. Alright, and then we'll put our body tag, and we'll say we want the background set to BG color, or I'm sorry, bodybg, and save. Alright, so now we know we have our source folder with a Sass file in there. So now what we want to do is create our gulp file, because we need to create the tasks to actually compile the Sass and then also run our dev server, run BrowserSync. So let's go ahead and create a new folder called gulp file. Now you don't want to put this in your source folder. This should be in the root. Okay, so let's create gulpfile.js. Alright, now as far as the gulp file goes, this is going to be pretty simple. We're just going to bring in our three dependencies, so gulp itself. So we want to require gulp. We also want to require BrowserSync. So we're going to set that to require. And in here we want browser-sync, and then we also need to add on to this .create, okay, which is a function. And then we just want to bring in Gulp-Sass. I'm going to call it Sass. So Gulp-Sass. Alright, now that we brought those in, let's create our first task. So this is going to compile Sass. Now to create a gulp task, we just do gulp.task. And I do actually have a gulp crash course if you want to check that out. Made it a few months ago, I think. And we're going to call this Sass, and then we're going to run a function. Okay, so for this function, we're going to say return gulp.source, and in here we want to put in whatever Sass files we want to get compiled into regular CSS. So we're going to put in here our source folder /scss/ and then any SCSS file, so *.scss. Okay, anything that's in there. Oops, there should be a slash right here. So SCSS / *SCSS, and then we're going to go on to the next line and do a pipe, because we need to tell it where to compile to. So we're going to say gulp.dest, which is just gulp destination, and that is actually going to be source /CSS. Alright, so hopefully you guys understand what's going on. It's going to look in this location for Sass files and then compile it into this location, and it'll actually create the CSS folder for us. We don't have to manually create it. Alright, and then we just need to do, actually I skipped a step. There should be another pipe right here, and we just need to throw in the Sass function like that. Alright, and then one last pipe at the end. Can't type. And this is going to be BrowserSync. We're going to say BrowserSync.stream. okay, because we need to stream it to the browser. That's our first task. Our second and last task is going to be to watch and serve. Okay, so we'll say gulp.task, and we'll call this serve. And then we just need to add a second parameter, which will have the Sass task in it, like that, and then a function. All right, and then in this function, we're going to say BrowserSync.init. We're going to initialize BrowserSync, pass in a configuration object with a server value. That server value is going to be the folder that we want to serve in our browser, which is going to be our source folder. Okay, that's where our we're going to put an index.html file in there. Did we do that? No, we didn't do that yet, but we will. All right, and then under that, we just want to run a couple gulp.watch functions here, which is just going to constantly watch files. We want it to watch our Sass files, so we're going to put in an array here with the file names, which is going to be source/scss/*.scss, just like we did above. All right, and then we need to put another parameter here and put some brackets in and just say Sass. All right, and then we're going to do another gulp.watch, and then this one is going to be for our HTML files, because we want to be able to edit an HTML file and have it auto load into our browser or sync into our browser. So let's put in here source/ and then any HTML file, so *.html, and then we can simply do .on. So we're going to do .on change, meaning whenever an HTML file changes, then what do we want to do? We want to call BrowserSync.reload, okay, because we want it to reload automatically. And that's it. Now we just need our default task. So we do that with gulp.task, and we call it default. And all we want to happen is to run an array of tasks, which will just be the serve. Okay, now if you this is what the hell's the word I'm looking for? Scalable, because if we wanted to, let's say, add a minify task, we could do gulp.task minify and so on, and then we could just add that to the array down here, and it will run minify as the default. All right, so let's go ahead and save this. Now, in order to run this with the gulp command, you're going to need the gulp CLI tool installed globally. So you can do npm install -g gulp-CLI. All right, now I'm going to be creating an npm script so that we can just do npm start. If you wait and you do that and you don't care about running gulp right now, you don't have to do this, but just to show you can. Now we can run gulp. Okay, and what it did is it compiled all of our Sass. If we look in the source folder, now we have a CSS file with a style.css file. I'm sorry, a CSS folder with a style CSS file with body background blue. So this was actually compiled from our Sass file right here. All right, and then what it did is it opened up our dev server. Now it says cannot get / because there's no HTML file in our source folder for it to load. So let's go ahead and add that. So in the source, we'll say new file, index.html. And let's add some HTML. Now I'm using Emmet, so I can just do !tab, and it'll give me a basic structure. For the title, let's just say Sass Starter Pack. And save. Now, since we created the HTML file after we ran the server, we'll have to stop it with Control-C, and then we'll run gulp. It should reopen, and now you'll see the HTML file is actually loaded. All right, now I don't want to have to run gulp, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the server. I'm going to go into my package.json file, and I'm going to create a script here. Okay, I'm going to replace the test because we don't need that, and I'm going to put start. And then I'm going to say gulp. All right, we'll save that. And now we can run npm start to start the server. But before we do that, let's add some stuff to the index.html. So we're going to want to link the CSS file that was compiled, the style.css. So let's go ahead and put a link tag in here. It's going to go to css/style.css. And then down here we'll just put an H1, and we'll say Sass Starter Pack. Okay, and then we'll save that, and let's run the server with npm start. Okay, so it's going to compile it, and it's going to run the dev server. And notice that we have a blue background. That's because if we look in our Sass file, we have our variable body BG set to blue, and we have the body background set to that variable. If I were to change this to red and save, it'll automatically update. Okay, and we're all set. We're all set to start writing Sass. So that's the gist of what I wanted to show you, just how to create the starter pack. This is what we have uploaded on GitHub. Now what I'm going to do is just go a little bit further and just create a very, very simple project, not a stylish website or anything like that, but just some examples using Sass. I guess kind of an intro to Sass and some of the features that it offers. So let's go in our index file, and we're going to create a header with an ID of main header. Okay, and then in here we're going to have a class of container, and then we're going to have an H1, and we'll just say Sass website. Okay, so under the header, let's create a simple navigation. We'll say nav. We'll give it an ID of main nav. Oh, should be hash main nav. And this navigation, the links aren't going to go anywhere. It's just for show, really. We're going to put a container in here as well, and then let's put our UL. And in here we're going to put an LI. Let's put a link inside this LI. We'll give it an href to go nowhere, and content will say home. All right, and that's just Emmet right there. So now what I'll do is just copy this. We'll put in a couple more. Let's do home, about, services, and contact. All right, so that'll be our navigation, and we're going to style that using Sass. And then I just want two sections. So let's say section ID of section -A. And in here we're going to have a container, and then we're going to have an H1. Whoop. H1. I'm using Control Tab for Emmet, which is really kind of screwing me up lately. So in the H1, we'll say lorem 10, which will give us 10 words. I'm just going to turn on wrap for you guys so you can see everything. Toggle word wrap. And under the H1, I'm going to put a link, and let's give it a class of button dash. We'll do button -A. All right, and that'll just say read more. And then I'm going to copy this section A, paste another one underneath, change it to section B, and change the button to button B. Okay, then that's going to be it for our markup. So now let's go to our Sass file, style.scss, and we'll just get rid of this. And let's go ahead and add our variables up at the top. So we will do a body variable. Let's call it body -bg, just so we can easily change the background. I'm going to just set it to white though for now. All right, we'll also have a main font, and we'll set that to Arial. All right, and you can set whatever variables you want. You know, whatever you want to put in a variable, you can do that. Usually what I do is I'll have a primary color, a secondary color, and then some grayish colors. I'll keep those in the variable so that I can quickly change those, and they'll iterate throughout the site. So let's create a primary color, and this is actually going to be like a tealish color. Just paste that in, and with VS Code you can actually see the color, which is nice. Let's set a secondary color, and all this is just for fun. I'm not creating anything special here. Just kind of give you an overview of what you can do with Sass. So we'll also do a light color, which will be like a light gray. So let's do F4 3 times, and then we'll do a dark color, which will set to 333. All right, so there's our colors. Now let's start to add our CSS rules. So we're going to add for, actually before we do the body, I'm just going to add a reset. So we'll say asterisk, which basically means everything, all elements. We want to just take away the margin and padding. All right, because by default, you can see that like the H1, the UL, these have default margin and padding. I want to remove all of that. So I'm going to save, and you'll see that all the spacing is removed. So for the body, we're going to say background, and let's set it to our BG color. What is it? No, it's body BG. Set it to that. And let's see, we'll set the font. Let's set the font family to our main font variable. And we're also going to align everything to the center. Okay, there we go. Let's add some styling for links. So links, I just want to take away the underline, so text decoration none. Let's make the color dark gray. All right, so now we're going to move on to the container. Okay, container, I'm going to set a max width. And then I usually like to put the container inside a variable too. So up here, we'll create a variable called container. And let's set that to, we'll say 960 pixels. So that's going to be the max width. So down here, we can put container. Container. And then let's set margin auto so that it's set to the middle, and then we'll set padding 0 on the top and bottom and 20 pixels on the left and right. Save that. And now if I were to stretch this out, you'll see that it'll get constrained into 960 max. All right, so next thing we're going to do is the header. Okay, so the header area with the H1. So remember, we gave it an ID of main header. Okay, so in here, let's set the padding to, we'll say 1M. We'll set the background color, or I'll just say background for short, and we'll set that to the primary color variable. Whoop. Why is that not working? Primary color, setting the background. Did the server stop? I must have had an error. Let's see, variable, yeah. Since I messed up the variable name, the server stopped, so we'll just have to do npm start again. And there we go. So now we have the background color. Now, I'm going to show you a really cool function that will actually look at the background color of an element and then decide if the text should be dark or light. So let's go up to the top here, and under the variables, let's create, we'll put a comment, we'll say functions, and we can define a function by doing @function, and we're going to call this set text color. Okay, so set text color, and it's going to take in a parameter of a background color, so we'll just say BG color. And then what I want it to do is I want it to look at that color and see if it's at a certain lightness, then the text should be dark. If it's at a certain darkness, it should be light. So we can actually use if statements. We'll say @if, and Sass has a function called lightness. So if lightness is, or we have to pass in the BG color, it needs to know what to look at. So if the lightness of the BG color is greater than 50, then we want to return black as the text color. All right, and then we'll do an else, and we'll say return white as the color. Is that right? No, we need to do @else like that. All right, so now we have our set text color. Now let's go back down to the header, and for the color, we're going to say set dash text color, and then it needs to know what the background color is so that it can give us the right text color. Now you can see we're using primary color as the background, so that's what we want to pass into that. Alright, and we'll save, and now you can see it's white. Now if I were to go up and change the primary color to some kind of light color, like let's say white, and save, now the text is black. Okay, so that's just a really handy function, that I learned a while ago that I use all the time when I use Sass. So let's continue on with the nav. Actually, one more thing, the H1 in the header, I want to make it a little bigger. Now you can nest in Sass as well. So instead of, saying, instead of doing this, main header H1 and so on, we can actually just put the H1 right inside here, like this. So we can structure it kind of like the HTML. So I'm just going to set the font size to, let's say, 40 pixels. All right, and that's it. So let's move on to the navigation. So it's a nav with the ID of main nav. And we're going to set the background. Background for the nav is going to be the secondary color variable. So secondary color, and let's set the height of the nav to 40 pixels. And then we can nest inside here the UL. We can nest in the LI. And we can nest in the A tag. Alright, now the LI I want to display, actually first of all let's remove the bullets. So we'll go to the UL and we'll say list style none. Okay. And we want the LIs to display inline. Whoops. Display inline, save. Let's also add a little bit of padding to the UL to the top. We'll say padding top 10 pixels. And for the links, let's change the color to white. And let's also say padding right. I'm not saying this is the best nav bar, I'm just doing this really quickly. So 20 pixels, separate them a little bit. And then we can do a hover. Inside the A tag here, we can say ampersand colon hover, and we can set that to, let's say, light gray. So we'll do CCC. And now you can see we have a hover event. Or not a hover event, but a hover effect. So that's the navigation. Now let's take care of the two sections. So remember we have an ID of section -A. Now what I want to show you now is the extend function, or the extend feature of Sass. So let's say we want to do class section, okay, and then in this section class we want a padding. Now the padding I'm actually going to put in a variable, so let's go up to the top here and let's create a variable called section-padding. Alright, we're going to set that to 20 pixels. I still spelt that wrong. Okay, 20 pixels, and then down here we'll set the padding to that variable, section padding. And I also want to set the H1 inside the section class to have a margin bottom of 30 pixels, just to push the button down, or I'm sorry, the link down. So if we save that, nothing's going to happen because we don't have the section class on these section tags. We just have our IDs. Now what extending allows us to do is we don't even have to add a class here of section. We can simply go down here, we can say @extend.section like that, and we'll save, and now you can see it's added the padding and the H1 margin to section A. Okay, we want to apply it to section B as well, so we'll go ahead and paste that in, and we'll say section B, save, and it'll apply it to that as well. Alright, now the background for section A, I want to be the light color, so we're going to say background, set it to the variable we created of light color. Save that. You can see now it's light gray. We're also going to use our set text color function that we created. So we can grab this right here, paste it in. Now we don't want to leave primary color here because section A actually has a background color of light color. We want to make sure that we pass that in instead. And save. We're not going to see any difference because the text was already dark. Alright, now we want to do the same thing for section B. So what I'll do is just copy these two lines, except I want to use the dark color as the background, and that also means we have to pass it in dark color right here as well. And save, and now you can see we have our dark color. The text is automatically white because we used our set text function. Alright, I hope I'm not losing you guys here. Now the next thing I want to do is the buttons. Okay, these two buttons, remember button A and button B. And we're going to do the same thing with the extend. We're going to create a button class, and this button class is going to have the padding of 10 pixels, 15 pixels. We're also going to, actually no, that's it. Now we don't have a button class on our buttons. We just have an ID of a class of button A and button B. So what we'll do is we'll add in those classes here, button -A, and we're going to extend dot button, and then add our extra classes, which is going to be the background. Background will be the primary color. Okay, we'll save that. You can see it has the primary color. Notice how the text is dark though, so we want to apply our set text color function, and then just change this to primary color that we pass in, and save, and now it has the correct text color. So we'll do the same with button B. Let's copy that, paste it in. Now button B, I want to have the secondary color as the background, so we have to change this as well. Save that, and there we go. Alright, so let's see. I don't think I really want to go any further than that. That's most of the Sass features. We can also darken and lighten things. So let's say for the background for button A, we wanted to lighten this primary color up a bit. Actually, let's darken this one and lighten this one. So we could surround it in a function called darken, and just pass in a second parameter of a percentage. We'll say 10%, and we'll save, and you can see it's now darker. And down here for the secondary for button B, let's say lighten. We'll surround that, and we'll do also 10%, save, and now that's lighter. Alright, now let's take a look at separating these into files. Okay, so let's say we want the variables and the functions in partials. Okay, a partial is just that, it's a partial file. So in SCSS, we're going to create a new file called _variables.scss. Now the underscore is very important because it signifies that this is a partial, meaning that when we compile our Sass, it shouldn't create a variables.css file in the CSS folder. It should just simply include the code into the main file. So let's copy all of our variables. We'll cut them out, paste them in there, and save. And then we can simply do @import variables and save, and you'll see there's no change. So let's do the same thing with the functions. We'll create a new new file called _functions.scss, and we'll just grab our one function here, paste it in there, save it, and then we're going to just import functions. And notice we don't have to put the .css, we don't have to put the underscore either. Save it, and it still works. Alright, now just to show you how powerful Sass is, let's say that this was a big application or a big website with, a bunch of different Sass files, and you wanted to take a look at, different color combinations. So let's change up the primary color. Let's change up all of these colors really quickly. I'm just going to comment them out. Actually, what I'll do is copy them. And let's say we wanted to change this color to, let's say black. No, let's say red. We'll change this one to black. We'll change the light color to, let's see, let's do 555, I guess. And we'll do, let's pick a color here. So we'll do like a dark red. Whoops. We'll do like that. Okay, and save. And we have an error. Let's see. I'm missing the semicolon here. There we go. So we'll just have to run npm start again. And there we go. So it opens up. It's a completely different color scheme, and it's as easy as that. Now this is a very small website, so I mean it's not really needed to use Sass here, but just imagine it as something bigger where you would have to go through and you would have to change every instance of that color, where with Sass you can just simply change the variables file. Same thing with like section padding. If we wanted to make that bigger, we'll change it to 40 and save. If we wanted to change the font, like let's say we want to change it to Homa, save, changes the font. So Sass is really powerful, and I guess with this little example I can't really show you that, but you can just imagine for a bigger application. And then as far as deploying, all you have to worry about is your HTML and your CSS folder. Okay, so in this case we just have two files, index.html and CSS. And let me just give you an example of that. I'm just going to open up FileZilla. And let's say you went through, you used the Sass Starter Pack to create a really nice website, and now you want to upload it. So you would connect to your website. I'm going to create a folder on my remote host called test. And let's open up our project folder. And what I would do is just grab in the source folder the HTML and the CSS folder, and we'll upload that. And then we'll open up a new tab and we'll say traversymedia.com/test. And there it is. Okay, that's all you need is those files right there. Everything else, the gulp file, the package.json, this is just your dev environment. Okay, this is your workflow. So I think that's going to be it, guys. This video went a little longer than expected. My main focus was to create the starter pack so you guys can create your own projects, but I took it a little further and just created a little something here. Nothing special, but just to give you some examples of some of the features of Sass. All right, so thanks for watching, guys. If you liked it, please leave a like, please subscribe, and I will see you next time. So if you guys really like my videos and you learn a lot from them and maybe you have a couple extra dollars to spare, check out my Patreon page. I'm working on creating special content for patrons. You also get special deals on future courses, and there's even an email support tier for all YouTube videos and projects. To learn more, visit patreon.com/traversymedia.